and welcome to the Greenville County Democratic Party. This video is a mini town hall hosted by the GCDP, but open to the public. It was held on September 12th at Vaughn's Warehouse in Simpsonville. The moderator was Lynn Ramirez, who is the executive committee woman for the GCDP. The subject of the gathering was the homeless, with an objective to help the public better understand what stories and situations may underlie those people who are currently homeless, who have been homeless, or may be homeless in the future. We also hear from a Greenville City planner, Tina Belge, who is currently campaigning for a seat on the Greenville City Council. You'll hear firsthand from two individuals who managed, with the help of others, to make their way out of that most difficult situation. We hope you enjoy their stories. Here is the moderator, Lynn Ramirez.
Good afternoon. I welcome you all to this town hall, and I'd like to specifically acknowledge any of our elected officials that are present. I did see Alan Mitchell at one point.
He's coming back.
He's coming back. Also present today are many of the elected members of the GCDP. I know Evelyn is here. I see Steve. And I want to point out our chairwoman, Stacy Mars. Hey, all right, Stacy orchestrated this town hall. I'm just the mouthpiece for today. So I'd like to publicly thank her for immediately putting out a statement Wednesday evening that I'd like to read for you now. The Greenville County Democratic Party is horrified by the senseless murder of Charlie Kirk. Violence has no place in our politics, and gun violence has no place in our communities. Regardless of political differences, this sort of attack is vile and unacceptable. South Carolina knows too well the devastation that shootings and threats of violence can bring. No one should ever have to fear for their safety because of their beliefs or face the trauma that comes with political and gun violence. At this time, when it is easy to point fingers or inflame division, we must instead stand together with one clear voice. We condemn violence in all its forms. Our community is strongest when we reject hate, resist chaos, and choose dialogue and peace over bloodshed. She is also quoted in several news outlets yesterday regarding this, the recent events, and we're all grateful to her for that because it serves to lower the temperature and rhetoric regarding this situation. So Stacy, thank you very much for your leadership. All right. Today's town hall is to discuss the homeless situation in Greenville County. How does that happen? Who is at risk? What can be done? We have three panelists today to answer some of these questions. As we go along, if you have any questions, please write them down on the index cards, and then somebody will bring them up to me. I won't be taking questions or comments from the floor, so we're going to do it in kind of panelist format. So please write any questions or concerns you have. You can raise them above your head, and Donna will collect them for us. Okay? We're happy to welcome Russ Reed with us today, Dan Weathers, and Tina Belge. Russ Reed and Dan Weathers, two individuals who have experienced periods of their lives being unsheltered, will answer some of these questions for us. And then Tina will discuss how a city planner who is running for city council can enact some legislation or what is available to handle this problem. All right, let's start with you, Dan. Okay?
Yeah, is it on? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Dan, what were the circumstances that led you to become unsheltered?
The simple yet complex answer to that question is lack of community. First off, let me say I'm a Simpsonville native, proud graduate of Hillcrest High School in 1989. And I experienced the loss of both of my parents, and so therefore I had no community in my life. And I slipped into some bad habits, and so as I was telling Susie earlier, I substituted the loss of my healthy community for some pretty unhealthy communities. And that landed me into quite a bit of trouble. But thankfully, after years and years of battling, I settled into where I found a healthy community. I'm now a staff member of the greatest and largest emergency shelter in South Carolina, Greenville Hill Rescue Mission, Greenville Rescue Mission. That place and Triune Mercy Center both helped me get my life figured out and provided me that healthy community I needed to find myself. And I now...
Dan, I'm going to ask you more questions about that in a second, because I definitely want to know the circumstances that helped enable you to get out of that situation. But I'd like to hear from Russ if his circumstances were similar that led him to become unsheltered.
Well, no, not at all. I'm a military veteran, and I had gotten out of the military, and I was working for, and I have a bachelor's degree in college, and I had a job working for a local hospital, and I caught a bacterial infection, and I didn't know that I had a dormant infection already in my body, and they both fought for my white blood cell counts, and I ended up in the hospital for almost a year, going blind, and I had built a home in Greer. Life was good, and all of a sudden, within 2 years, I was living in my car.
Wow. Okay.
So,
horrible circumstances that almost, many of us are vulnerable to at some point. Dan, you started to talk about the circumstances that helped enable you to go from unhoused to housed. Can you tell us about the circumstances of that? There's quite a few instances, but this final one, we'll talk about that.
I had ended up into incarceration again, and I mentioned to somebody that, I didn't know what I was going to do, and he suggested that I write Triune Mercy Center. And Triune Mercy Center, like I said, a good, healthy community. They came and helped me out, got me into the Greenville Rescue Mission, where, we don't have time to go into that story, but like I said, it provided me that healthy community to where I could find my own talents and thrive in something and give back to that community that helped me so much.
Fantastic. Russ, what was your help? Did you have the VA to rely on?
Well, not in the beginning. There was I don't want to say a war, but there was a dispute on who was going to help me. Was it going to be disability, or was it going to be the veterans?
And when you say a fight over it, do you mean they all wanted to help you, or they couldn't decide who would have to help you?
It took a lot of red tape and a lot of waiting and a lot of writing letters, and eventually they both stood up, but it took close to 4 years.
4 years?
4 years before I was finally helped. In the meantime, I knew nothing about being homeless. I knew nothing about shelters, any of that stuff. And somebody one day said to me, "You ought to go over and talk to them at Triune Mercy Center."
Okay.
And I did, and I found the community that I needed. Here's the biggest mistake I made when I first became homeless is I had hundreds of friends, and not one of them knew that I was homeless. I just didn't have the courage to tell somebody that I had failed and that I was homeless and living in my car. So, and it took a long time before I could own up to that.
And of course, there's different stigmas attached to being homeless. What were some of them that you faced that led you to not share that with other?
I just felt that I had failed. Now, what I did not realize was that my mental health state was not at its best.
Okay.
And from time to time, I would self-medicate my mental health state. And once I got involved with Triune, they got me involved with Greenville County Mental Health. And that was a part of my program in getting things moving in the right direction.
Fantastic. That's great. Veterans make up approximately just over 9% of what we consider the homeless population right now. And this is according to an early 2024 study. So for any of you wondering, the majority of homeless, there's just over 9% that are veterans.
What I ended up doing was Tryon had introduced me to Miracle Hill. I got into Miracle Hill. Miracle Hill introduced me to an organization called Alston Wilkes, who housed veterans temporarily. I was there for a year, and then I was eventually able to get a HUD Bash voucher that I use today.
Okay. So you both made your way out of homelessness. What are some of the things that would send you back into that situation? Not just you personally, but also people you know. So I was hearing mental health issues. Dan, you mentioned something to me about medical issues.
Yeah, I mean, after I worked myself out of homelessness, I had, I battled through that. I finally beat a lot of my issues, and some strange health issues started popping up, and come to find out I had cancer. I was diagnosed in January of 2021. I was diagnosed with lymphoma, diffused non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma. And again, go back to that community. I had a community that I had learned to build, and I relied on them. And I'm proud to say now that I've been cancer-free for about 3 years. I did 9 months of chemo. And there's just so many. I mean, if I could think of 1,000 things. I mean, Susan and I were talking just the other day that, something just as simple as a car breaking down, and you could miss going to work, lose your job, and then that's it.
Okay.
You're on the street again. But if we can learn to build good communities, and you will have that community to rely on and such things, I think that's the key. I think my story and Russ's story are completely different in ways, but if you simplify it down to the common denominator, it's lack of community. I think lack of community is not only homelessness, but crime, so much mental health. If we could learn to build healthy communities rather than tearing them down so much, I think it would be so. I mean, I hate to sound general, but it'd be a good thing.
Okay. Now, something I hear from other people who don't really know the situation very much, and I'm kind of one of those that don't understand the situation very well. I've heard the comments of, well, they just don't want to work, they want to be homeless, they're just lazy, they don't want to do anything. Now, neither of you fall into that category. Would you say that a lot of people in an unsheltered position fall into that group?
Fall into the group that appear that, or fall into the group that are?
That don't care, just want to be homeless,
I mean,
are happy
to
living.
say that there was zero would be,
Right.
I mean, there are those, but the large amount, by and large, no, they are not there by choice. In many ways, once you get in that situation, you're caught into a trap. I mean, the person standing here before you today with my flashy new dentures that Miracle Hill helped me get, and my fancy shoes, that person is very different from the person that was sitting on the street.
Okay.
And that's the thing that most people don't realize. That's the worst part of it, in my opinion. I don't know about Russ, but like when I just sitting there, and just your being is a nuisance. No, I can't even just sit here and sit on this park bench without being a nuisance. And that's the worst feeling that I've ever felt in my life.
I agree with that. I told Pastor Deb one time, I said, I can be homeless, I can be dirty, I can be wet, I can be cold, but the hardest thing about homelessness for me was when someone looked right through me like I didn't exist.
Okay.
And that's a hard place to come up from.
Yeah, the dehumanization due to your
Exactly.
homelessness.
Exactly.
Wow.
And all I really wanted was somebody to sit down and let me tell my story,
Okay.
you know, and because sticking $5 in my hand was going to help, but it was only going to be a temporary help compared to where I was mentally and emotionally.
Okay. So to be seen and to be heard
Exactly.
would be something. Now we have Greenville City camping ordinances, things like that, and you're saying, you know, homelessness wasn't a situation you wanted to be in, and now it seems like they're making it more difficult. Now, as the city planner, Tina Belge has insight on some of the things that can be done to mitigate or modify these situations. But beyond that, you're running for Greenville City Council. So legislatively, what sort of things can be done?
Yeah, well, prior to getting into that, I would like to say, you know, actually, I experienced housing instability as a child. So not many people know that, but from like ages 0 to 3, my mother was going through some really intense health issues, and, you know, through the support of our community, our church community, you know, we were in and out of people's homes, you know, but you were not on the street, but we were homeless, and my twin sister and I, you know, we'd spend different evenings at different people's places. You often didn't know where you were going to be at the end of the day. And kids are resilient, but I don't think that ever leaves you, that feeling. But also that community that y'all are talking about, I found that too at the same time. So, you know, I think that's why I probably always went into housing and planning, and affordable housing has been the focus of my planning career, and I think that's why. I recognize that. And our city, unfortunately, has had these conversations as of late. I know, Dan, you've been a big part of those conversations and working with Greenville together to make sure we're leading compassionately, first and foremost. Yes, homelessness is obviously a massive problem. It's a societal problem. It's a systems problem. It is not what we've said today, that it's a nuisance. I mean, that just you're existing, that's absolutely a failure. And I think that's why people avert their eyes personally. I hope that's why, like, that's the reason. I think it's a personal failure. We recognize we have failed our brothers and sisters, truly, truly. And so, yeah, my experience is actually working with the BASH program, Austin Wells. I started in homeless services when I was at Greenville County Redevelopment Authority, and we helped people through like rapid rehousing programs and transitional housing, everything from housing urban development. So there's a lot that we can do on the local level. You know,
What is the BASH that you?
Oh, BASH, the Veterans Affairs.
Oh, okay.
That housing voucher, that's so important. And it's a huge resource to veterans out there who are experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
You know, on the city level, I would love to see us do a few things. Protecting source of income. So if you have a VASH voucher, or maybe you have a housing voucher, or whatever form of income, disability, Social Security, we could pass on the city level a source of income law that protects your source of income from being treated any differently than any others. You'll go through a lot of apartment complexes, and they'll say they want a W-2 and a pay stub. And if it's not that form of income, then they won't accept it. That's not okay. And we can actually pass that locally if we wanted to. The other thing I think is getting to have that would help also with reducing evictions. Evictions, every $100 we increase in rent is a 9% increase in homelessness. So
Say that again.
every $100 increase in rent contributes to a 9% increase in homelessness.
Wow.
So it's all directly related. I get calls from moms who have had their rents doubled. They're living in their cars with their kids. And then that creates cyclical problems and mental health issues and instability and all this. So getting ahead of evictions, and there's quite a bit I think we could do on that level too, whether it's a local voucher, a more flexible voucher, versus, you know, you have to go through a lot of red tape for the housing authority to receive some of those. So I could go on a little bit, but there's a lot.
Yeah, there was a 2021 report from the Greenville Homeless Alliance that highlighted that a person earning minimum wage, okay, would need to work 81 hours a week to afford just a modest one-bedroom apartment in Greenville County, okay? Not just even Greenville City, Greenville County. So I'm sure some of the way to work against the rising rates of homelessness would be to investigate affordable housing so that our teachers, firefighters, veterans can all live in the community that they work in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see folks, they give up their car when something happens, maybe they get sick or there's some loss of income, something happens, they lose their job, they lose their car, and then they lose their ability to get back into the workforce and a job. You just see it every day.
I ended up taking a voucher in Greer, the city of Greer, because it was more available and it was going to be cheaper than trying to get one in Greenville.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
Just something to say, like, to quote on the red tape, I get no vouchers, I work, and during cancer, I was turned down for disability with cancer. So that ought to tell you some of the red tape that some of us have to jump through. And then, you know, everybody said, well, you could fight it, you can get a lawyer and fight it. No, I can work, I'm gonna go back to work. They turn me down, I'm going to
It
work.
costs money to get
Yes,
there.
and money and time that I don't have, because I need to feed myself today.
Now, Dan, you mentioned you're working now, but you're also giving back. What are you doing?
I mentioned that earlier. After I lived in the mission for 2 years and got out, got stable, got a job, and then as I mentioned, that's when cancer showed up. And then about a year after cancer showed up, the director of the Greenville Rescue Mission, I'm a chef. That's always been my passion. And it honestly, we don't have time to go into it, but that was part of the reason that highlighted me so much when I lived at the mission. And they needed a chef to come work at the mission. So that's now, I work at the very homeless shelter that I spent 3 days on the street trying to get in there to help. And I get to be that friend to the people that I needed.
Fantastic.
We're both involved with Greenville Together. We're
Okay.
part of the Learning Experience Council.
Learning Experience Council.
Lived experience.
Oh, Lived Experience Council
Yes.
with Greenville Together.
Yes, Greenville Together, a home for all. If y'all are interested, it's a citywide effort to reduce homelessness. It's a new way of looking at homelessness. It's based on the housing first model as opposed to a housing readiness model. We won't get into that, but do your research. It's out there.
Fantastic. Well, I thank you very much. I don't know if you had something to add. My main goal was just to understand and see you. And as Tina pointed out, I love your words of that, is to see you not as a nuisance. You know, anyone in this situation as a nuisance, as opposed to systemic failures, immediate failures, lack of community. So, does anyone have anything you'd like to share or add to this?
I mean, yeah, I think the lack of community, you hit it on the head, Dan. And like, we're losing more and more community every day, it seems like. You know, we're here instead of looking up here, right? We're on our phone, these other things. That creates a lot of community, but I also think it creates a lot of overlooking of folks who are struggling and a lot of finger pointing, and it's so unreal. I mean, during COVID, we ran a rental assistance program, and I got calls every day of people losing their hours, their jobs because of COVID, people in their family dying. These situational things that could happen to any single one of us, and we could be homeless in a matter of whatever you happen to have in your savings, truly, that's it. And almost most people live paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't matter what strata, right? Unless you're higher income, like, it's expensive out there. It's more expensive to be poor, like it is. So yeah, thank you for y'all, your community.
Did anybody have an index card? I'm trying to tell you that. question. Tina, let me direct this at you. In some parts of the U.S., there's a movement for churches to build housing on vacant property they may own. Is there any effort to do that in Greenville?
Yes, there is. So last year, Representative Jones, Wendell Jones, introduced some legislation around that. And actually, I just found out today, under federal law, any church can build any kind of housing. It can even go around zoning code if they want to, as long as it's providing mission-based work. So that's huge. I mean, but you want the tax benefits that Wendell was pushing for in order to have that on the state level. Mountain View Baptist Church is doing some great things around Unity Park area. Reverend Stacy Mills, also Curtis Johnson with Overbrook, Valleybrook. Thank you, Valleybrook Church is actually doing a lot on this as well. So, and I have 4 different models I studied out of the Charlotte area. They've done some really great things. So it's happening. Brunch Course Housing, of course. They are doing, not building on vacant land, but they've purchased multifamily. And they, it's a Greenville Tech site right on the trail, and they have childcare there going on right now, and they're going to build a larger even childcare center. It's affordable. There's a great community there. It's families supporting families.
We also have Church Street Place, which is how would you describe that, Russ?
It was donations from many churches.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, that's United Ministries is behind that, United Housing Solutions, Triune Mercy Center. So there's a lot of, and especially in Greenville, there's a lot of, the transitional housing is a big move right now, because that's another problem you have, you've got, like for me, for instance, I spent some time in the shelter, but you're still going to get to that one point where, okay, there you go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, we're building these communities. So like for instance, I know Front Porch Housing is a 2-year program. And it gives you more of that community building skill, which is a big key in my mind.
Okay, you're answering some of the questions that are out there right now, like what resources are currently available to those that find themselves unhoused?
Greenville County Human Relations Commission does have some support if you're experiencing an eviction. Obviously, legal aid if you're experiencing that and you're like on the precipice of homelessness. You mentioned United Housing Connections. There's also Share, and then Triune
Mercy Center, Miracle Hill, Salvation Army,
of course. A lot of churches also. There's the it used to be the GAIN program in the United Ministries. So it just depends. There's like rental assistance, deposit assistance. First Baptist has started a new fund called the Hosea Fund that also helps people who are at risk of homelessness and facing eviction. I'm missing any. He's mentioned Austin Wilkes. That's a big one for veterans. Yeah.
Have churches played a role in either of your?
Oh yeah, church has played a major role in my life. I owe my life to Triune Mercy Center. Like I said, I was in jail, didn't know where I was going to go, and I wrote to Triune. They were going to come bail me out of jail. I eventually worked around and got a PR bond. I didn't have to post bail, but yeah, they were going to come, and I owe this all to them. If it weren't for them, I would be sitting here right now.
And Triune was a big part of mine. They had some programs when I first started going to Triune, like the Circles program, that taught me how to stay in the middle of a peer support group instead of being so silent and thinking I could do this all on my own.
Okay, so actual tools to help you develop.
And then I took the basic finance class that taught me how to
budget
and both things I use today. I have a peer support group through the VA today. I have a case manager who comes to my house once a month, not to inspect, but just to make sure that to do a wellness check. How's my mental health? Are you paying your bills? And is there anything you need?
Fantastic.
And I didn't have that in the beginning.
How is Triune funded?
How is what?
Triune.
Oh, that's all church funded.
Yeah, that's the church.
It's all church funded, private donations, any grants, tax money?
I don't know.
They
It's a
don't.
church.
They don't do federal. The ones that get federal are Share, United Housing Connections,
Okay,
United Ministries, and then Human Relations Commission.
okay. Great. How are the homeless able to vote? Do they vote?
I would say, Russ looks at me and says, I have no idea. I mean, it would be difficult. I mean, how are you going to declare an address? How are you going to get, and that's things that most people don't realize as well.
And you talk about where most people.
And do they have area crimes?
Yeah, where do most people get their mail? Most of them get it at Triune or through United Ministries. Taking a shower, your laundry, anything like that. And then I can remember when I was homeless, like I said, I'm a chef, so I would work in restaurants, and there would be so many times I would live at the Mission, but I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a way. And as soon as I put that Greenville Rescue Mission number down there as my contact, I knew I wasn't getting a call back.
Okay, all right. And this question is for Russ and Dan. How can community building for unsheltered be expedited? In your opinions, what can concerned people do to help with community building?
Churches, try to get involved in a church, get involved somehow, start a community, and I mean, just go talk to people. That's mainly what a community is inviting people into your life and sharing and helping them out when they need it.
Okay.
I agree.
Russ, you feel the same
I
way?
agree.
Okay.
The one thing I will say, if you're asking about what needs to be done, there's a lot of services, as we talked about in Greenville, but like I said, now that I'm involved in service work and actually serving the homeless community, I'm seeing there's not many day services to the homeless in Greenville. So, with the camping ordinance and all this, if you're wanting to decrease nuisance behavior, where are these people going to go? You know what I mean? And that guy that's sitting on the street corner, maybe he's got nowhere else to go. And there's no other, you see them around Triune, and that's kind of a loose affiliation, and you see them at the library, but really, there's nowhere you could place out.
Well, I thank you very much for your time and information, very, very enlightening. And you did touch on the mental health aspect of it, of either it being a contributing factor to becoming homeless or being homeless, and that affects your mental health for sure. I just wanted to acknowledge that September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and just give you a couple quick statistics. South Carolina is 10th overall, suicide is the 10th overall cause of death in South Carolina. The South Carolina suicide rate is 15.6% higher than the national average. So if you or someone you know is at risk, has mental health issues, please call 988. Come see me for additional resources, or Tina, and we can talk about that. So I'd like to turn the program back over to Matt, and thank everybody for being here.
The Greenville County Democratic Party would like to thank you for taking your time to learn with us about this very personal subject of homelessness. Finding real and effective solutions to this issue is just one of the many facets that the Democratic Party stands for, and we hope that you will now join us to help find and implement real solutions. Thanks for watching.